Hi, and welcome to a virtual tour of the Healing Patch. The Healing Patch has two full-time staff members, one for each of our two centers. Melody Ray is the Healing Patch coordinator in Cambria County, and my name's Shaylin Steinbugle, and I'm the volunteer coordinator and grief specialist in Blair County. Recently, Judy's House, which is a program similar to ours in Denver, provided new statistics in the form of the Childhood Bereavement Estimation Model, or CBEM. So these numbers are updated as of the summer of 2020. So did you know that nationally, 1 in 14 children, or 5.2 million, will experience the death of a parent or sibling by age 18? In Pennsylvania, 1 in 12 children, or 214,000, will experience the death of a parent or sibling by age 18. And Pennsylvania has the 17th highest rate of bereaved children in our nation. In Blair County, 1 in 16 children, or 1,670, will experience the death of a parent by age 18. So out of the 67 Pennsylvania counties, Blair County has the 27th highest rate of children who will lose a parent by age 18. And even more alarming, Cambria County is the second highest rate of children who will lose a parent by age 18 at 1 in 12 children, or 2,220. And keep in mind that these statistics were done in the summer of 2020, so we don't have COVID statistics yet. So at the Healing Patch, we provide free peer support groups for children and their families who have suffered the death of a loved one. We offer a safe environment where participants can discover that they are not alone in their grief. They have the chance to interact with others who have experienced similar losses, and they soon realize that hope and healing are possible. The Healing Patch is a self-referral program, so families can enroll by calling us at 1-800-445-6262, and we have ongoing enrollment, so families can start attending sessions as soon as they go through the initial intake call and then an in-person orientation. At the orientation, we assess if our program is right for the family and if we will be a good fit for them. On the right-hand side, you'll see a quote that says, "This is a special place. It's a soft place to fall." This was coined by Shirley Pector, one of the original committee members and founders of the Healing Patch in 2006. So thanks to Shirley and those who believed in the program, we can continue to strive every day to be a soft place to fall for our grieving families. So like I mentioned, the Healing Patch has two centers, one in Ebensburg and the other in Altoona. Our Ebensburg Center is located at 118 Ebony Road, and group nights are held typically on the second and fourth Tuesday evening from September to May. Our Altoona Center is located at 20 Sheraton Drive, next to the Outback Steakhouse. Group nights are held usually on the first and third Tuesday evenings from September to May. On a group night, we have at least 2 volunteers in every children's room and at least 1 volunteer in each of the 2 adult rooms. At 5:30 p.m., volunteers in volunteers arrive to our community room where they eat dinner, mingle with the other volunteers, and learn if we are adding any new families that night. At 6 p.m., the families begin to arrive, and they go to their individual rooms based on their age, and they play board games and they eat until about 6:30. So this is a really good time for them to relax and just transition after what might have been a really busy day at work or school. Here's a photo of our community room at the Blair Healing Patch Center. So at 6:30, the activities begin for the night in each of the age-appropriate rooms. The activities last for about 50 minutes. This is the first of our children's rooms. This is the littles room, which is for ages 3 to 5 or 6 years old. According to grief expert Alan Wolfelt, if we are old enough to love, we are old enough to grieve. So volunteers plan an activity for expression of grief and connection to peers, and then it becomes more of a play group as children typically express their grief during play at this age. Oftentimes they dress up in costumes, play chef in the kitchen, or build towers with the blocks. By playing, it gives them control over a situation. It also gives them one-on-one time with caring adults, something that they might be lacking since the death of their person. At the beginning of every session, we start with our name and who died. We do this in all of the rooms. This allows participants to connect with others and also realize that everyone is there for the same reason. We then go over the roles. Every room has the same 3 roles, and participants can also add their own roles as a group. The first role is safety. We talk about physical and emotional safety. So no hitting, jumping, biting, but also no bullying, and being nice to each other and not saying something if it'll hurt somebody else's feelings. The next role is confidentiality, or what happens at the healing patch stays at the healing patch. And then the third role is I pass, which means that at any time a participant can say I pass if they don't feel like sharing, and then we just move on to the next person. These are 2 of the murals that were painted on the walls at the Cambria Center in the Littles room. These were painted by community members, and they really make the rooms feel fun and kid-friendly. Here are some photos of our Littles room at the Blair Center. Local artist Billie Holan painted this beautiful mural in memory of her great-nephew, Wyatt Lansbury. In this picture, you can see 2 of the activities that have been done by our Littles participants. One year, each new participant created a paper chain, and another year, new participants made their own paper person. The chain and people were decorated in memory of their loved one who died. This activity demonstrates that we're never alone in our grief and that many other people have experienced similar situations. The purpose of doing these activities is not about the end product, but rather the process. The activities are simply vehicles to help get conversations started and to make connections among the group members. The next room is our middles room, which is for children ages 6 to 9. This typically tends to be our largest group, and there's a lot of energy in this room, so we like to have at least 3 volunteers if possible. Here's a photo of our Blair Middles room. At this age, the children typically are able to focus on a grief-related activity for the entire 50-minute session. So here are some examples of activities at this age. Dreams and nightmares is a topic that we cover each year, since sleeping is often disrupted after a death. On the left, you'll see an example of a dream catcher. We explain how the dream catcher originated with Native Americans to rid away bad dreams. We have paper plates already pre-cut and hole punched, so the children can decorate the outside of the plate with things they do to cope, such as playing sports in this example. They then choose their yarn, beads, and feathers to make the final touches. We've had several children come back to us and say that the dream catcher must be working because they haven't had any bad dreams. So this is an example of how magical thinking really works at this age. And on the right, we have all our puppets. We sometimes will set up a little stage to have a puppet shows, and this activity really gives the kids control and the ability to play out their grief. Here you'll see 2 quilts that were created in the middles room. The one on the left was completed around Valentine's Day, and each square was decorated by a participant in memory of their person. And then the squares were connected to form one big wall quilt. And then the one on the right was done around Easter and springtime. Here are 2 examples of thankful trees. This is an activity typically done around Thanksgiving where the children cut out drawings of their hands or leaves and then write down what they're thankful for. Next, we have our tween teen room. In Blair County, we actually have 2 separate rooms, one for tweens and one for teens, but we don't have the space or number of volunteers here to do that in Cambria, so it's all one room. Here's our Blair tween room for children ages 10 to 12. In this room, the children tend to have a better understanding about death and dying as compared to the younger groups, and they have yet to develop much of a filter around their peers like teenagers do, so they tend to talk more openly about the death of their loved one and they ask many questions. Here is the Blair teen room for children ages 13 to 18. So in general, teenagers can be a little bit more reserved when it comes to talking about their grief. So the biggest goal in this room is to build trust among the participants. Once that trust has been established, members typically freely share their feelings associated with the death. Oftentimes they talk about school and how teachers or peers reacted to the death and whether or not they thought their actions were appropriate. They talk about friends and how they've either been supportive or not so much. Here's an example of an activity that our tween room did on Valentine's Day. Group members made a heart in memory of their person, and then all the hearts were strung together across the front of the room to show that we aren't alone. In all of the children's room, we have this My Grief Rights poster hanging up. So each of the 10 statements starts with, I have the right to, and then validates how the child might be feeling or acting. Some examples include, I have the right to have my own unique feelings about the death. I have the right to talk about my grief when I feel like talking. And I have the right to move forward and feel my grief, and over time, to heal. Here you'll see one of the crowd favorite activities that can be done at all ages. These are masks that the group members decorate. On the inside, they write or draw their feelings. These are the things that people wouldn't see or know about them. And then on the outside, they decorate the masks with what people see when they look at them. And this activity helps to spark the conversation around how we oftentimes put on a happy face to the world, but we might be struggling on the inside. At the Healing Patch, we also have 2 adult groups. One is for adults who lost their spouses or partners, while the other group is for everybody else. Although parents and caregivers are required to remain in the building during support groups, they are not required to participate in the group. The common denominator in the spouse loss or partner loss room is that everyone is caring for a child who has lost a parent, which can look a little different than losing another type of loved one. The adult rooms do not have a structured activity, but they function more as your typical peer support group. At 7:20, the adult rooms are dismissed to go pick up the children as they leave for the night, and then the volunteers stay for another half hour to debrief. At the end of the year in May, we end the session with a closing activity. The closing activities are meant to remind participants how far they've come in their grief journey and to show, again, that they are not alone in their grief. Other family members and friends are welcome to join us for this closing ceremony, and here are just a few examples of what they've done in the past. So on the left, each participant wrote a note to their loved one, a special memory that they had with their loved one, or what they loved about the Healing Patch. And they wrote that on the ribbon of their choice, and then the ribbons were all threaded together inside a frame. The next example is a blue butterfly that was divided into different puzzle pieces, and each family had one of the pieces, and they were asked to write or draw what hope meant to them. The butterfly was then put back together as one masterpiece. And on the right, the activity is like the first, where participants wrote notes or memories and then tied the ribbon around a ring to make a wall decoration. So now that you know more about the program, we want to share a testimonial with you from one of our Cambria Healing Patch participants, Miriam, who lost her boyfriend Zach to substance overdose.
Hi, my name is Miriam, and I am 18 years old now. I'm a recent graduate of Richland High School. I started my journey at the Healing Patch in March 2019. It was actually exactly 1 week to the day of losing my boyfriend of 1 year, Zach. Losing Zach has been one of the hardest times in my life. I actually found out he passed away the morning after while I was in the hallway of my high school when I overheard teachers saying what happened. I truly think I blacked out in that moment. I know I made it from my math class to the office. I'm not really sure how that happened, but the first thing I wanted to do was call my mom. And when I called my mom, she told me to go to the guidance office. And I went there and called my mom from there. My mom arrived shortly, minutes after, and we talked to my guidance counselor. about ways that could help me grieve, and my mom and her started to talk about this shock that I was going through and how they could help me. My guidance counselor recommended the healing patch, and that's how I found out about it. When you go to the healing patch, there's 3 different rooms that you can go in, and I was in the oldest room, which is the teen room. Whenever you go into the room, what you first start out with is going over the rules. And basically, in all, in a sense, those rules are saying that you don't have to share anything you're not comfortable with, and this is a safe space, and no one's going to share what you say here. Of course, you didn't have to say anything that you weren't comfortable or ready to say, but we also all shared memories that we had from our loved ones, which really helped. We had the opportunity to tell stories and laughs that we had, and our lowest points and our highest points. We played games to get each other to open up, and we just had discussions. We shared songs that helped us through our grief. Being with people that all knew what I was going through helped me so much, and I knew I wasn't alone in my grief. We were all so young, going through such hard times, but the healing patch really showed me that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, which I didn't see when I first started in my grief. It wasn't all sad. There were days where we would laugh and smile and do fun activities and remember the happy times with our loved ones. And those days really helped as well. I've realized that so many kids experience grief at really young ages, and not a lot of them have an outlet to express those feelings. The healing patch gave me that opportunity and time and space to heal. When you go to the healing patch, your parent or guardian goes with you, and they participate in the progress as well. They're separate from you, and there's 2 different adult rooms that they can go into. My mom came with me every single time. She was one of my biggest supporters through the whole grief process, and taking me there was something I really appreciate that she did. I couldn't have done it without her. They talk about, in their rooms, your parent or guardian, they talk about their child's grief and even the sadness that they're holding themselves. I feel like I've gained so much from this experience, and it's given me the opportunity to not grieve all alone. I always felt supported and cared for by everyone that was there, whether it was Melody or the volunteers or the kids in my group or even the pizza man that would give us our pizza every single day. If you're a child or a teenager and you lose someone that you love dearly, I think coming to the healing patch and being with other people and kids that experience the exact same thing that you did will only help you grieve and recover. It's given me the opportunity to live the life the way that he would have wanted me to, and it will do the same for you. Thank you, Healing Patch, for helping me through, and my mom, through one of the saddest times in my young life. I appreciate you all.
Here are some photos of Miriam and her boyfriend, Zach. So Miriam's story is so touching, and I hope you enjoyed hearing her perspective on how the healing patch has helped her throughout her grief journey. Oftentimes when people hear stories like Miriam's, they wonder how they too can get involved to help grieving children. So next we will hear from Tina, a volunteer in our Blair Littles room, who will share her story and explain how someone can get involved with the healing patch.
Hi, I'm Tina, and I'm a Healing Patch volunteer in the Littles Room at the Blair County Center in Altoona the past year. Here's my story. I'm a retired teacher, and although I had other part-time jobs and volunteer work, I so missed the time I spent with children. There were so many avenues of opportunities, but I never found one that spoke to me. After a few years, I would see the name The Healing Patch pop up in things I was reading. I often saw it listed under an agency related to the hospital and simply assumed it was somehow connected with staff with medical background. Well, finally one day I wised up and took time to find out more about it. Turns out it's full of volunteers of all backgrounds and experience. I decided to call the number for more information. As I talked to the volunteer coordinator, I really became excited, as this was just what I had hoped to find. And luckily, they were starting a training of new volunteers for the upcoming year. Now, let me tell you, this training was the easy and most interesting time spent. It was casual, I made new friends right away with other volunteers, and the staff was so welcoming and understanding of any and all questions that we had. Yes, I had a teaching background, but even without that experience, I would have come away with all I needed to be comfortable as a volunteer. No pressure whatsoever. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to be with children, but please know there are many opportunities through the Healing Patch, such as helping at the center being a greeter or helping prepare materials. There are some who volunteer from home by sewing the memory bears, making blankets, and other items that bring some comfort to the children who have lost a loved one. And that leads me to another concern I initially had. The uncomfortable idea of having all this sadness and grief to deal with. Sounds overwhelming to some, right? Well, our time with the children is not a heavy, sad event. It is upbeat. We plan lots of fun activities and primarily facilitate in giving the kiddos a chance to be with other kiddos who have lost a loved one. It's tough for them to talk about it and process it, so the experience of knowing others their age may be going through the same phases gives them a better sense of what's happening. There are times that are moving and comforting, and those times are truly rewarding. Isn't it so much easier to know you're not alone in your feelings when you're around others who really understand? So, I've loved being with the Healing Patch. The families and children and all the volunteers become connected easily in a welcoming bond. There are so many resources to help everyone deal with grief in their own manner. And if you do volunteer to work with one of the groups of children, as I do, there's always a lead volunteer. So it's easy to just start out helping as you get more familiar with the activities. You are never alone, and support is always there for the asking. I'd encourage everyone to look closer and learn more about ways to support and volunteer with the Healing Patch. Any coordinator you speak with is happy to share the information you need and will invite, not pressure, to see if it's a fit for you. Trust me, the unknown is always a little scary. But once you take the step, you may find the reward is not just in what you bring to the children. You also will be rewarded in what they bring to you.
And here are some photos of our volunteers. So Tina shared about her experience with our group nights as a volunteer, but the Healing Patch also does other services in our community. So one of them is a lending library where we have over 400 grief-related resources that are available for the public to borrow. And we have an entire listing of these books on our home nursing agency website. And since we work closely with the Family Hospice Program, we offer comfort bags to children who live in the home with a hospice patient who has died. So the comfort bags include a healing patch teddy bear, a water bottle, blanket, box of tissues, picture frame, journal, and something to write with, along with a healing book. Additionally, we do community presentations about our services and about children's grief. So on the left, Melody was interviewed by Casey O'Day for a show called All About Town, which debuted in August 2020 on Fox 8 and ABC 23. And on the right, Melody was invited by Pastor Mike Hammer from Element Church to talk about the Healing Patch for their Care for Your Neighbors event. We also raise awareness for children's grief at all times of the year, but especially on Children's Grief Awareness Day on the third Thursday in November. We partner with local businesses and schools and ask them to wear blue in support of children's grief. We've also handed out blue butterfly pins for people to wear. Northern Bedford County Middle School participated in Children's Grief Awareness Day by wearing blue. They learned of this day by inviting us into their school for their grief education in the classroom. So for this, we go into an 8th grade class and do a general presentation about grief to all 8th grade students throughout the day. We end with a game where they can guess the number of starbursts in the jar, write their name, and check if they're interested in learning more about the Healing Patch or talking to a counselor. It's a great way for schools to check in with their students. A counselor or social worker is always present in the room the entire day, so when we leave, they can follow up with the students after. We also do mini Healing Patch groups, which we call patch clubs, and these are in local schools that have 6 or more students who have lost a loved one. And we meet with them for 6 weeks in a row and 1 hour each week. We take all of the Healing Patch activities to them, and we structure the group similarly to how we run the Healing Patch groups. And the Healing Patch can also provide grief education to school personnel, as well as free grief resources on how to support grieving students. So now that you know more about our services, let's talk about ways in which you might want to get involved. So first, as Tina mentioned, we're always looking for volunteers to help on our group nights. You do not have to have a background in grief or counseling or anything like that. We simply ask that you are able to be emotionally present and have the ability to actively listen. Volunteers must be at least 21 years old and be able to commit to 2 Tuesday evenings per month during the school year. We do a 4-session training in the summer, and we also require a flu shot, child abuse clearance, and criminal background checks. On group nights, we also have food servers and greeters who do not go through the full training in the summer, but rather they assist with families checking in and serving the food. At the end of every Healing Patch session, we hand out any memory bears that may have been made since the last session. Memory bears are available to any child who enrolls in the Healing Patch, and they're made out of the clothing of the loved ones who had died. And these bears are cherished by the children for years to come. It's personally my favorite part of the program. So these are some of our sewing volunteers, which are separate from our group facilitators. And we do have a few that do both. So here are some examples of memory bears that have been created. They all use the same pattern, but each bear is so unique. We ask the volunteers to not wash the materials. We want the bears to still smell like their person. On the left, you'll see a memorial pillow. So in April, each new family that is joined for that year has the opportunity to decorate a pillowcase together in memory of their loved one. They send us photos, which we turn into iron-ons, and then they decorate as a family. Our sewing volunteers then turn the pillowcases into pillows, and then we present that to the family at our closing ceremony in May. And during COVID, many of our volunteers also tried their hand at sewing masks. So they donated several to the Healing Patch, and we were able to give them to families during the orientations. If you feel like group facilitating is too much of a commitment and maybe you don't know how to sew, don't worry. We have a few other opportunities if you'd like to help in other ways. Since 2011, a group of volunteers has been planning and organizing an event called Patch Together, a day of music, which most recently has been held at the Bavarian AIDS Society in Altoona in November. Local bands donate their time to play music, and volunteers set up crafts or activities for the kids. Volunteers can join the planning committee or volunteer on the day of by helping with basket raffles, children activities, etc. In 2019, $13,000 was raised by Patch Together, and in 2020 and 2021, the event was held virtually. Much of the Healing Patch funding comes from the Home Nursing Agency Foundation through grant dollars, private donations, and fundraising events. Decades Club is a reverse raffle event held each fall to raise funds. Attendees can win cash prizes. The event also has basket raffles, silent auction, dancing through the decades, and much more. Volunteers can help by joining the committee or helping on the day of the event. At the Healing Patch, we've been so fortunate to receive many charitable gifts from our community. We've had some people choose to regularly give to the Healing Patch in memory of their loved ones who have passed away. We've had other people who ask their family and friends to give to the Healing Patch in honor of their birthdays, anniversaries, or special occasions. Oftentimes, our greatest gifts are not monetary at all. Mr. Otis' video production short film class at Everett High School graciously donated their time to help us create a volunteer promotion video, and this can be found on our Home Nursing Agency website. Over the years, we've received many donations from local groups. Only a few of these groups are pictured. Dave Harrell from Allstate Foundation donated his time to make frames for our ribbon closing activity. The Reliance Bank Christmas Club donated Jared boxes to give to children during their orientations. These boxes are typically given to children in the hospital, but they wanted to give them to our kids who go through the orientations here. Skills of Central PA delivered Jared boxes from State College several times to us. The official Holy Name School donated sweet treats around Valentine's Day. And the Ebensburg VFW Ladies Auxiliary donated toys to provide to children during the holidays. The Basement Warriors First Baptist Church of Nantiglow decorated and donated picture frames for our comfort bags. St. Francis Blanketeers donates several blankets to us every year for use in our comfort bags at orientations and during our group nights. The Ebensburg Angels donated fill for memory bears as well as many supplies for comfort bags. Jacob, founder of Seeds for Needs, donated water bottles for comfort bags, along with a Walmart gift card to purchase supplies. And employees from Michael's Arts and Crafts store donated memory boxes, art supplies, and boxes of fill for memory bears. As you can see, we are so grateful to live in such a wonderful community that cares for our grieving children and their families. And we thank you for taking the time out of your day to learn more about our program. Feel free to contact us with any questions in the future. We have a Facebook page that we update regularly, as well as a website with more information. If anyone has any questions or comments, you can email or call Melody or I. So thank you again for being here and learning more about the Healing Patch.